Welcome to my channel, where your adventure into the future starts right now. Step into a vibrant universe filled with groundbreaking technology, breathtaking alien landscapes, and exhilarating sci-fi narratives that challenge your imagination. From daring explorations of distant galaxies to haunting journeys through dystopian societies, we uncover the most captivating stories and innovative ideas that will shape the world of tomorrow. Subscribe today and join us on an incredible intergalactic voyage that promises to inspire and thrill. In the grand expanse of the universe, the arrival of humanity on the galactic stage was initially met with skepticism. The advanced civilizations of the galaxy, ancient and wise, viewed Earth's inhabitants as a young species still fumbling with the basics of spacefaring existence. Humanity was just one of countless species scattered across the stars, and many considered them to be no more than a blip in the vast cosmic timeline. They were a species still grappling with their own survival, caught between the monumental achievements of their past and the uncertainty of their future. What did humanity have to offer? What could they teach civilizations that had long ago transcended the struggles of survival? At first, humanity's primary contributions to galactic affairs were unremarkable. Their technology, while rapidly advancing, was still primitive compared to the far older and more sophisticated systems used by the other species. Their social structures were volatile, their political systems prone to conflict, and their understanding of the cosmos, though impressive, still contained numerous blind spots. Yet, there was one thing about humanity that the galaxy's older species could not ignore: their singular, pervasive culture of self-reliance and resourcefulness. Humanity, throughout its history, had faced immense challenges, both natural and self-inflicted, that pushed their ingenuity to the limit. Earth had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, many of which had collapsed due to war, disease, environmental destruction, and political instability. Yet, through it all, humans had found ways to pick themselves up from the rubble, rebuild their societies, and press forward. In a world where many species were content to rely on technology, centralized governance, or the wisdom of ancient traditions to sustain them, humans had always been driven by an innate desire to do it themselves. They had created a society where, from a young age, individuals were taught to solve problems, to innovate, and to never rely on others when they could rely on themselves. It was this do-it-yourself mentality that would go on to inspire entire alien civilizations across the galaxy, transforming not just how they viewed survival and self-sufficiency, but how they lived, adapted, and ultimately thrived. The first to notice humanity's unique approach to problem-solving were the Vor, a highly intelligent insectoid species from the distant star system of Phela. The Vor had long prided themselves on their intricate hive societies, in which every individual had a specific role to play. Their civilization was based on the notion of collaboration and specialization. Each Vor was bred and trained to excel in a singular task. Some were engineers, others were soldiers, others still were scholars or diplomats. The concept of self-sufficiency, of relying on one's own skills and talents to overcome obstacles, was foreign to them. In Vor society, the hive provided everything, and no individual was expected to venture far outside of their assigned role. When humanity first made contact with the Vor, it was clear that there was little common ground. The Vor's hive mind, which enabled them to work seamlessly as a collective, made it difficult for them to understand the individualistic nature of humans. To them, the idea of someone working alone, solving problems by themselves, was utterly strange. The Vor viewed this as inefficient, even reckless. How could an individual possibly solve the complex challenges of life without the support of a highly organized collective? However, when a series of interstellar crises ranging from devastating resource shortages to unforeseen technological failures began to hit the Vor colonies, their hive systems began to break down. The sheer scale of the problems they faced left the Vor central authorities overwhelmed, and their specialized workforce, so accustomed to relying on others for guidance, found themselves paralyzed. As a result, the Vor turned to the humans for assistance. What they didn't expect was the unorthodox solution that humans brought with them. A group of human engineers, rather than offering advanced technologies or elaborate plans, suggested that the Vor return to the basics of self-reliance. They proposed that each Vor learn to solve problems on their own, to innovate within their specialized fields without constantly relying on the central authority or the hive collective. It was a radical idea, one that upended everything the Vor had known. But it worked. Slowly, the Vor began to embrace this do-it-yourself mentality, training individuals to think for themselves, to solve their own problems, and to take pride in their own ingenuity. The results were remarkable. Not only did their crises begin to resolve, but the Vor, who had once been dependent on a highly organized collective, began to rediscover the power of individual creativity and problem-solving. The success of this initiative spread quickly across the Vor colonies, and soon, the do-it-yourself philosophy became a cornerstone of Vor society. No longer did they rely solely on their hive infrastructure to solve every problem. Instead, individuals took greater ownership of their work, learning new skills and finding innovative solutions to the challenges they faced. They began to adapt and evolve in ways that they had never thought possible, and the Vor, once a society dependent on the structure of their collective, began to flourish in a new era of self-sufficiency. This shift in the Vor's thinking did not go unnoticed by other species. As the news of their newfound independence spread throughout the galaxy, it caught the attention of the Sklorn, a nomadic species known for their merchant fleets and trade routes. The Sklorn had always prided themselves on their ability to acquire and distribute resources, but they had never been particularly focused on self-reliance. Their entire culture was built around trade and exchange. Everything was available if you knew where to find it and how to bargain for it. But when the Sklorn's supply chains were disrupted by a sudden series of galactic storms that rendered many of their trade routes impassable, their entire way of life was thrown into disarray. Once again, the humans were called upon. Rather than offering quick fixes or emergency supplies, they proposed something entirely different, a system of self-sufficiency that allowed the Sklorn to adapt to their changing environment. They taught the Sklorn how to cultivate their own resources, how to repair their own ships, and how to innovate using what was available to them. The Sklorn, who had relied heavily on the exchange of goods and services with other species, began to realize that their survival didn't depend on the goods they could barter or the trade routes they could traverse. It depended on their ability to adapt to any environment, to find solutions in the face of scarcity, and to solve problems independently. It was a slow process, but over time, the Sklorn began to evolve. Their nomadic fleets, once reliant on trade with distant civilizations, now became self-sustaining. They learned to grow their own food in the vast holds of their ships, to manufacture the parts they needed for repairs, and to innovate using the materials they had on hand. The Sklorn, once seen as opportunistic and reliant on the wealth of others, became known across the galaxy for their self-sufficiency and ingenuity. This cultural shift was not limited to the Vor and Sklorn alone. The Alakori, a race of aquatic beings who lived on a distant oceanic world, also found themselves inspired by humanity's do-it-yourself ethos. The Alakori had long relied on the advanced technology gifted to them by an ancient race, using it to maintain their underwater cities and complex infrastructure. But when a catastrophic shift in their planet's climate led to the breakdown of their advanced technology, the Alakori were faced with an unprecedented crisis. Their cities began to collapse, their infrastructure fell apart, and their way of life was suddenly threatened. In desperation, they turned to humanity for help. Rather than offering them advanced technology or new machinery, the humans taught the Alakori how to rebuild their cities from the ground up. They showed them how to harness the natural resources of their oceans to create sustainable, self-sufficient systems. The Alakori learned how to create their own filtration systems, how to cultivate food without relying on outside imports, and how to innovate with the limited resources available to them. Slowly, they began to rebuild their society, not with alien technology, but with their own ingenuity. They realized that their true strength lay not in the machines they used, but in their ability to adapt and solve problems independently. The influence of humanity's do-it-yourself culture spread further still. The Jaal, a species of energy-based lifeforms whose society had been built around an intricate system of energy sharing and mutual dependence, began to rethink their reliance on the energy contributions of others. The core, a race of genetically engineered beings who had been bred for specific tasks and functions, began to question the limitations placed upon them by their creators. In every corner of the galaxy, species who had once relied on the wisdom and infrastructure of others began to turn inward, embracing self-sufficiency as a guiding principle. The idea that an individual, a species, or a civilization could stand on its own, solve its own problems, and thrive without relying on external support resonated deeply with these alien cultures. It was a transformative realization. Survival did not depend on the strength of alliances or the abundance of resources. It depended on the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to take responsibility for one's own fate. For humanity, this cultural revolution was a testament to the power of their own philosophy. The do-it-yourself mindset, which had long been ingrained in human culture from the earliest pioneers who built their own communities from scratch, to the engineers who designed the first spacecraft and solved the complex problems of space travel, had found a resonance across the stars. What had once been considered a quirky, perhaps even backward, approach to life had now become a universal truth. In the face of adversity, the greatest strength lies not in the resources you have, but in your ability to solve problems with what you have, and to adapt to any challenge that comes your way. The galaxy, once filled with civilizations reliant on trade, technology, and centralized governance, had become a place where self-sufficiency, ingenuity, and personal responsibility were the new currencies of success. And at the heart of this transformation lay humanity, a species that had survived by their own wits and perseverance, and had unknowingly sparked a revolution in the way the galaxy viewed survival. As the centuries passed, the influence of humanity's do-it-yourself culture continued to ripple through the galaxy, forever changing the way species interacted with the universe and with one another. It was a legacy that would endure, not in the form of advanced technology or grand empires, but in the quiet, unassuming spirit of independence and innovation that had come to define humanity's place in the stars.